Hey there, welcome back to our Harkla YouTube channel. Welcome if this is your first time watching. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Jessica, and we're the Certified Occupational Therapy Assistants with Harkla, and today we are answering your sensory questions.
So this is a new type of style of video that we are introducing, and it's fun, it's different, it's casual, and we are just here to help you and make your sensory questions make sense.
So we have 4 questions that we're answering today, all related to sensory processing, sensory integration for different children of different abilities and ages.
All right, first question. This is a good one. How to help a 3-year-old who hates touching anything or who hates getting dirty?
I feel the same way, actually.
I
don't like my hands being messy, mostly with shaving cream in the clinic.
I am actually similar in certain situations, but, given that I have a 3-year-old myself who has some, sensory quirks, if you will, we are navigating through this. And I think the best tip that I can give is to stay calm yourself and model getting messy and just showing that it's okay, and it's okay, and we can clean up when we're done.
Yeah, so setting up those intentional play activities during the day where you can have maybe a muddy bin full of toys, and then another bin full of soapy water, and then another bin full of clean water, and you can get all of the toys super messy and dirty, and your child can touch the toys as much as they want, but you're engaging with the toys as well. You're also getting messy, and then you're giving all of the toys a bath and cleaning all of the mud off of them. That's a great one to do, and if you're in a place where the weather is nice, you can do it outside, so you don't even have to worry about getting the house messy.
Yep. If your child is struggling so much in this area that it's impacting their ability to get through the day, they won't eat different textures, they won't touch their food, they won't play with anything messy, if it's really impacting their ability to get through their day, you want to make sure that you are getting in touch or getting an occupational therapy evaluation done just to rule out any underlying sensory processing or sensory modulation challenges. When in doubt, rule it out.
Yeah, and we do have another video all about tactile processing with some other tips and tricks for working on that tactile system, so we'll link that in the description. Next question. My 3-year-old suddenly has their hands in their mouth all the time. Why and how to stop this? How to stop them?
These are all about 3-year-olds today, aren't they?
But they're still related to sensory processing.
Yes. Okay, hands in the mouth. Sometimes this can be, there's so many different reasons why. The first thing I think of is sensory seeking or proprioceptive seeking, tactile seeking, oral seeking. They're trying to get enough input that their brain isn't registering. So they're trying to meet that sensory need by putting their fingers, putting things in their mouth in order to chew on, suck on, and just hold in their mouth to try to meet that sensory need.
That happens a lot. So what you want to do is find a replacement, a safe alternative for them to get that oral motor input. We like different types of chew tubes or the Z-Vibe from Arc Therapeutic. You can get a chew necklace that they can wear if it's safe, but then also incorporating more oral motor activities throughout the day, like blowing and doing bubble mountain, blowing a cotton ball across the floor to a target, and incorporate those activities into the daily routine.
Lately, we've been loving sour spray and using a tongue scraper. So if you have like a metal tongue scraper, you can have them scrape their tongue, or you can help them scrape their tongue. And if you're doing this as well, and if you're feeling what that feels like, it's a lot of input, and your mouth is like, whoa, here I am. This is what I feel like.
Tongue scraper? I don't like the tongue scraper.
You don't?
No.
Sensitive Sally again over here. I think it's so
Do not.
alerting and invigorating. It's like, oh wow, this is where my tongue is in my mouth.
It feels weird. I don't like it, but some people do.
Yes.
Some people do.
Yes, and some kids crave that input, and that's why they're putting things in their mouth. They just need more input, and we can satisfy that need by sour spray, tongue scrapers, chewy tubes, vibration, things like that.
Yep.
Next question, why don't I see post-rotary nystagmus after spinning? Okay. So this is just like a normal response that we see. It's those eye movements back and forth, like those really quick eye movements back and forth after we do that rotary vestibular input. So for a kiddo who is not having that like typical PRN, post-rotary nystagmus movement, it usually means that they are a sensory seeker, they have a high vestibular threshold, and they aren't processing and modulating that input efficiently.
Yep, so what you can do is create some fun vestibular sensory-based activity routines for this child and incorporate the spinning and follow it up with crawling, throwing a ball, playing catch, maybe a visual activity like reading a visual chart, and then complete that sequence again. Make sure that when you're doing the spinning, you are spinning the child counterclockwise and then clockwise, and then it's the same number of spins both directions when you do this activity. So the goal here is to help their vestibular system learn how to process that rotary vestibular input, and then we're following it up with some heavy work to regulate the nervous system and some ocular motor skills, because the vestibular system is directly connected to our visual system.
If you are not familiar with the astronaut training program, I highly recommend checking that out, taking the course. I actually recently took it back in February, and it was really helpful. Love the program. They talk a lot about this rotary nystagmus. They talk a lot about the vestibular activation. Really helpful to learn more about PRN and the vestibular system.
Yeah, definitely a great program to check out. We will link their information, and especially if you're a therapist working with children, this is going to be a continuing education course that you can use with all of your clients. Question number 4 is how to help my 3.5-year-old listen at soccer practice. I will tell you that when we were looking over these questions, initially my response was you don't, because 3.5-year-olds are not the best listeners. But if we're looking at this from a sensory perspective, let's identify why soccer practice might be challenging for a 3.5-year-old. And the first one is going to be that there's a lot going on at soccer practice. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of noise. So there's a lot of sensory input that this child is getting, which is going to make it more difficult for them to pay attention and listen.
Yeah, and they probably haven't had like formal instructions, a formal teacher at this age. You know, this is their first time really getting a taste of what having to listen to an adult sounds like. Not like they don't listen to you, but, you know, listening to a teacher or a coach, and it's their first time. So they're like, this is weird. Like, why do I have to listen to you? We just did soccer practice, soccer camp with Trip. We've done it twice now.
And he's 3.
He's 3. Yeah, he's 3.5. And
wait, did you post this question?
No, because shockingly, he was one of the only kids who was listening. And I can't tell you why it was. He's been in preschool for a year. Maybe that's what it was. Most of the kids were laying down on the ground, rolling around, you know, having a hard time taking turns. And having a really great coach helped a lot. But honestly, a big factor was not having the parents there. I noticed that when the parents weren't there, or they were like hiding, or they weren't able to be seen, the kids did so much better. So if that's applicable, if that works for you, and you can like sneak around the corner, you could go get coffee and let someone else watch kids. I don't know, but just think about it. Just see if that's a possibility, and maybe having parental instruction there is just too much for the kid, and it's just that safety net that we want to maybe release a little bit.
I do agree with that for pretty much all sports.
Yeah.
That parents, it's really good for parents to kind of step aside and let the coaches take over in these cases. But going back to the age, 3.5-year-olds are not meant to sit down and listen for a long period of time. They're still in that very young age of they learn best through movement, and their attention span is very short. So if you're noticing that maybe your 3.5-year-old is struggling more than the other 3.5-year-olds in the class, you can do some heavy work activities before you go to practice to maybe help regulate their nervous system a little bit better. Maybe talk to the coach and ask the coach if there are some things that can be done to help your child specifically learn and engage a little bit more. But I think the biggest takeaway here is that 3.5-year-olds are not going to listen as well as we might want them to.
One thing I will say that was helpful for us as well is when we were driving to soccer, we were talking about the rules and the expectations before we got there. So it's kind of like our positive affirmations we do before school, but we would talk about the rules. Like, do we help our friends? Are we a good listener? Do we run away from the coach, and we kind of talk about what the expectations are before we get there. And that seemed to help us as well. But, maybe lower the expectations a little bit. At 3.5, just go there and have fun and let them run amok and be a kid, and they'll learn, they'll figure it out.
Yeah. If you like these Q&A videos where we answer your questions on the YouTube channel, then make sure you put your question into the form that is linked down in the description, and we can answer your question on an upcoming video.
Yep. Make sure you're following us on Instagram as well. That's where we like to hang out. You can find us at Harkla_family, as well as at All Things Sensory Podcast, because we have a podcast as well.
And then we do drop a new YouTube video every Tuesday, so make sure you subscribe to the Harkla YouTube channel so you never miss a new video.
If you are concerned at all about your child's development or their milestones or anything at all, make sure that you're advocating for an occupational therapy evaluation, talk to your pediatrician, and get that in the works.
Yes. All right, with that, we will see you next Tuesday for another video.
And you root or you advocate for a pediatric. Let me say that again.
You root? I was like, what does that mean?
Root for